Dennis Waitley said, "Failure should be our teacher, not our undertaker. Failure is delay, it's not defeat. It is a temporary detour, not a dead end. Failure is something we can avoid only by saying nothing, doing nothing, and being nothing."
So where it all began. It all began for me when I was 12 or 13 years old and I picked tomatoes one summer. I was supposed to be doing it for 3 months. I ended up quitting after 2 weeks. That was my first time in my journey of things that I would quit in life. There was other things I'd quit. I started a window washing business right out of high school. I bought $1,000 worth of equipment. I bought 200 some dollars worth of flyers to go canvas the neighborhood with. I paid someone $10 an hour to go pass out those flyers because I was too good to be passing out flyers for my business. I ended up getting one phone call off of that. I thought I was going to be a millionaire in like 2 years from washing windows, but I didn't want to put in the work. I was lazy, wasn't focused enough. I made $100 in that business, and technically it's a loss because I spent $1,200 to make $100. So that was my first failure. I then wanted to get into real estate investing. I put $5,000 into a real estate course, and that was the only $5,000 I had. So then I had no money to work with to invest in real estate. Wasn't the brightest spot in my life, but I thought I was making something and doing something with myself. Every deal that I tried to do, they would look at me like, "Who are you? You have no experience. You have no money. Like, no, we're not doing anything with you." So it's one of those things you read in books or seminars, and they tell you can do things and you can't. And I got suckered right into it. I tried to start a t-shirt company. Coincidentally, it was called Reflect Earth, and it was an organic cotton t-shirt company. And you have to remember, this was 2009. There was not a lot of companies doing organic stuff at that time. I made calls to several manufacturers in the US, and a lot of the samples I got were terrible. I got the sample from Puerto Rico, and I loved their product, but I couldn't scrape together enough money to get that initial product order, and I quit. And you know what? I may have only talked to 3 people to fund that, and I got no 3 times, and that's what caused me to quit. I think that's what's super frustrating is how much I didn't want to try at all. The turning point for me was really when I got into the military. I had went in the first time, tore a tendon in my foot, and they told me I couldn't be in special operations anymore because upon x-ray they found I had extra bones in my feet. So then a year and a half later, I got a waiver to get back in the military. I got back into special operations, and in the pipeline, I ended up slipping 4 discs in my back and 2 in my neck. So being in special operations wasn't meant for me, and the Air Force picked a job for me. I was headed to air transportation in Dover, Delaware. Didn't know what either one of those were, but I knew I was going. At that time, I knew I had to do something with my life because it's not what I wanted to do for 20 years. So I hit the grindstone. I freaking worked my tail off. I didn't want to be that quitter anymore. I didn't want to be that failure anymore. I worked 40-hour weeks, 60-hour weeks, and I went to school full time in residence, right there, in class, brick and mortar, did nothing online. I was taking 15 to 19 credit hours every semester, just bumping through it while I was in the military working full time. As I got my bachelor's, I got my master's, I got my real estate license, I got my pilot's license, I got my motorcycle license. I think that that was one of my strong points. I was really good in school, and I knew I could pass whatever test or whatever assignment was put in front of me. So that was one of the things I was really proud of in the military, that I was able to do fairly well in there, advance to the rank I wanted to get to as fast as possible. So how I got the idea. I got the idea when I was working at Amazon. A lot of my friends were bringing lunches to work. And in that company, there really was hardly any time to eat lunch. It was just go, go, go constantly. And my friends I would sit them, they'd pull out their plastic containers and they would eat all the food, and then they would just toss the container away. I mean, we were all getting paid very well, and we didn't want to clean the containers, so that was the thing to do. You would just bring it in, throw it away, and move on. And I also realized that when I was in the military, I had meal prepped, and I would be taking plastic containers to work, and I would be throwing them away. Then you watch all these documentaries and stuff of how bad plastic is, and you start digging more into it, and you're like, wow, plastic never degrades, really? Like, we're eating plastic? It's just wild, all the things that you hear. So then I researched it and went online, and I realized there wasn't anything good out there. There was bamboo products, sure, but those take forever to biodegrade and decompose. Then there were other fiber containers, but the lids had to be plastic because they didn't actually have a lid that stayed on. Well, some of the ones that I looked at and I ordered a lot of these myself, and I'd bring them. You would turn it over and the lid would just fall right off, and there was no way to keep it on. So I realized that I might have an opportunity to do something here, so I went for it. So why do I want to start this company? Did I become an eco nut all of a sudden and just want to save the planet? Yes and no. So I don't want you to think because I'm starting an environmentally friendly company that I'm all of a sudden like, holding up climate change signs. That's not necessarily it. I'm coming at it from a different angle. The angle that most people think of is I think that the glaciers are decreasing and all of the world is heating up and we're all going to burn to death and die. I think that's extreme. You have to understand we've only been tracking weather now for about 150 years, since 1880. And we know that the weather has changed in that 150 years. But if you're a Christian, you believe the Earth is 10,000 years old. If you're not a Christian and you're a scientist, you believe the Earth is millions to billions years old. I think we both can agree on both sides that the 150 years of us tracking weather is not a whole lot. And what scientists have also said is that in the last 650,000 years, there's been 7 glacier-type cycles. So the glaciers have either expanded or they've decreased. And I think we're seeing that now. We're seeing a decrease in the isoglaciers. Could we see an increase in 100 years? If history is to repeat itself, yeah, we will. I think you have to understand that in 1923, there was several articles posted that we were going through another ice age, or it was about to happen. And then in 1970s, we had a huge thing about global cooling. And think about January 11th, 1970, there was a Washington Post headline that said, "Colder winters held dawn of new ice age." So it's funny how in the 70s we were going to be experiencing an ice age, and now here we are in 2020, and we're going to be experiencing hellfire and brimstone. So I don't get too caught up in that hype. I think there are changes in our Earth, but I don't think we fully understand whether or not that's cycle or if that's human consumption or exactly what that is. And I think that most sides are going to have a political agenda and try and steer you in one way or the other, and I'm not like that. I'm coming at it from a different angle. Every year, the world throws away about 2.12 billion tons of waste. It's actually, there was a study that said that 99% of all things we buy, we end up throwing it in the trash within 6 months. So that's a big thing for me. We realized in a lot of our research that 19% of all waste is actually plastic waste. And if you've watched any of my other videos, you know that plastic waste never fully decomposes. It can take anywhere from 60 to 200 years to finally decompose. And there was a new thing that happened. So recycling became a huge wave in the early 2000s and up until 2017, where you would recycle all your plastic, and it didn't matter what type of plastic was, we were able to find a home for it because China was basically subsidizing our plastic industry and they wanted to take all their plastic there. Well, in 2017, China said, we're no longer taking any of that plastic. And that left us with a ton of plastic. If you can think of 19,000 shipping containers, yeah, that's how much plastic. And that fills up roughly about 250 Olympic-sized swimming pools a month. So all that plastic is now filling up the little over 2,000 landfills that we have in the U.S. currently. I think that now the studies have come out saying that only 9% of actual plastic in our country is recyclable. And that's a big problem. So that's the angle I'm more so attacking it from. Yes, I don't want us to pollute. That's absolutely what I don't want. And I don't want us to throw things into the ocean or the lakes, the rivers, and I don't want a lot of stuff to happen that way. And I think that's where I'm more so coming from this. I want to be environmentally conscious about our consumption, about how we dispose of products. But I do want to say that if my product is disposed, I know that eventually it will become soil and it won't hurt our environment. I think we've come a long way in being environmentally conscious, and I don't want anyone to feel like, we haven't come a long way. Think about in the mid 1900s, New York used to take their trash and throw it right into the sea. If you're environmentalist, you're anti single use products. That's not to say that I'm not anti single use, but I understand there's a need for them in the marketplace. And you can't just go from one extreme to the other. You can't go from throwing away plastic containers every day to all of a sudden just using glass or metal containers and washing them all the time. There has to be an equal balance initially. I don't think that you can go from one extreme to the other. So I think this serves a nice middle ground. And yeah, eventually, if we can move away from single use as a society, then we can look at other alternatives and methods. But for now, this solves an issue. This solves a plastic container issue. All of those plastic containers that you use for meal prepping now, or that you pack for school lunches, none of those are recyclable. I don't care what it says. It can have that cool little triangle on it with the arrows following each other. It's not going to be recyclable. They're not going to take it. It's not going to turn into anything. I think one of the things that everyone has to realize is I haven't done anything yet, right? I mean, I've done things, but I haven't done anything impactful yet. I still have to go to the manufacturer. I still have to make this product something. I still have to sell it. I still have to do all these things. There's so many more trials and things that are going to come along that I have to stay strong for and not quit. I'm tired of being that failure, that quitter, that entrepreneur that they say. Like, I want to be that entrepreneur that actually grinds it out and pushes through all the no's and pushes through all the stuff that people tell you can't do. And I want to prove to myself that I can do it. And I think that's the biggest motivator, knowing that I'm finally in a place in my life where I can do this. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm so excited to share this journey with you guys. I'm so excited to prove to myself and my friends and family that, I can create this company and I can make it something special. And that's what I'm going to do.